Westworld Season 4 Episode 6 Trailer Explained. Episode 5 was recently released, and it certainly changed the trajectory for some of the characters in the show as we set to embark on Episode 6. With the preview for next week's episode being released, I thought I'd take a look and give my theories and predictions, and theorize about what could potentially happen in next week's episode along with breaking down the trailer. So let's get into it. Here is Westworld Season 4 Episode 6 Trailer Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The preview that we received for Episode 6 of the show opened up with the line, "You gave the puppet strings long enough to strangle the world," with a shot of Frankie and Bernard walking through the facility where it now looked derelict and abandoned in the timeline that they were in. The line that was spoken was likely alluding to the fact that the hosts that have been created were once the puppets of the humans, and were able to follow their commands and obey their rules. However, the strings being long is referring to them being built with the capability of eventually being able to develop and to be able to take control, which has now led to them essentially taking over the civilization, meaning the puppet masters have now become the puppets and are either victims or in hiding. Following this, we had a shot of Bernard mending the weapon that he was seeking in episode 4 of the show, which was Maeve, who we now know hasn't been seen in around 20 or so years based on when she was initially destroyed in the construction zone. We know this based on the age of Frankie in the modern day. We saw that Bernard has essentially pulled a Doctor Strange and seen all of the different outcomes that could possibly happen, and the decisions that have to be made in order to save the world from the hold that Hale is trying to have, and Maeve seems to be key to it, which most certainly doesn't surprise me as she's been a large factor in defeating evil throughout the entirety of the show's history, dating back to Season 1. After this, we heard Frankie state, "I want to know what happened." I think she could be alluding to wanting to know more details about what happened to her father Caleb, and wanting to know exactly how the world ended up in this situation. This could be directed towards Maeve once Bernard manages to get her to wake up after mending her. The somewhat intrigue in Frankie's eyes makes me think it could be pointing in that direction, or she could be asking Bernard to tell her the different outcomes of what has happened, and what he believes is going to happen in the future, and if the world will get saved. Following this scene, we got a couple of seconds in a park where it looked as though all of the human hosts had been frozen, like we've seen occur in other parts of the season, such as when Caleb was in the city earlier on in episode 4 and realized what was going on. The world is still moving, drinks are still pouring, but everybody's been frozen in time. This is to allow the hosts to be able to move around the city and seek out what I think is going to signify an intruder or an outlier. We heard a young girl, which could well be a younger version of Frankie, saying that they're coming, meaning the hosts, as we saw them approach them. I feel that we could potentially be witnessing Frankie's past at a time where she was once inside the city. In the modern day, the guy that appears to be leading the group appears to be slightly older than her, and these two individuals in the trailer look like they could be of a similar age gap, so I think we could well be looking at a flashback to a previous time in Frankie's life. We know that when she was younger, her father had been training her, and she was always keen for battle when necessary. This could well be at an earlier point in Frankie's life where she went looking for her father, as she believed that he would have been inside of the city. We know that in the early days, certain children were able to repel the flies from entering the system and taking over their mind, so Frankie could well have been one of them, along with the person that she was with as they managed to escape. Afterwards, we saw Caleb fighting with a host. I would imagine following the revelation at the end of episode 4 and him being taken away, he's going to be held captive. It looks as though we're going to see him try and escape and get into the city, but he'll have to overcome the host before doing so. I think it would be on the same timeline and day due to the fact that he's in the same clothing. Now that we have William potentially questioning his very existence and purpose following the ending of episode 5, I do wonder if we will see these two pair up at some point with the intention of taking down Hale, especially with the episode being titled Fidelity, along with its purpose in the show being the transferring of a consciousness. The true definition being the faithfulness to a person, cause, or belief. If there's somebody who seems as though they're questioning their fidelity and drifting apart from it, it could be William. Or it could well be the opposite and be centered around Hale and her project to ruin humanity. Following this clip, we had a voiceover of Hale stating, "Humans and their petty defiance." I imagine this could be alluding to the group of non-infected humans that were able to retrieve the outlier in episode 5 of the show, which prevented William from taking her out. It's one that they've managed to claim, and when we heard Hale state how she's going to put an end to this, she could be referring to working on a way of taking the last few remaining humans out and making sure it wouldn't happen again. We also had Clementine in the background of the shot. It's extremely blurry, but I would assume it's her based on the shot later on in the preview. Hale will most likely send her to do the dirty work and aim to eliminate the humans. The final shot that we had was one of what looked like the younger version of Frankie in the city, with one of the hosts staring directly at her in the face. We know that she isn't frozen like everybody else in the city, so we'll have to wait and see if she can keep her cool. But it leaves us with an element of suspense as we embark on the 6th episode of Season 4. There's a lot to take away from the preview, and it gives us a glimpse into next week's episode looking as though it's going to be filled with more timeline confusion, clarity to the story, Maeve's hopeful return, and also Caleb re-entering the show. It's an episode that I think is going to be a good one, and I can't wait to see it. So, there you have it, Westworld Season 4 Episode 6 Trailer Explained. If you want to see more videos on Westworld such as endings explained, theories and predictions, or character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review next, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think is going to happen? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.